Being raised up at Bronx Borough Hall is the Juneteenth flag representing the celebration of the abolition of slavery, with this year's flag ceremony observed simultaneously in 3 locations across the city, including right here at Borough Hall.
Now, they didn't have radio back then. They didn't have cable vision. They didn't have social media. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have phones.
Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. joined leaders to recognize the holiday that traces back to June 19, 1865, over 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863, ending slavery. The slaves in Texas, though, had to wait an additional 2.5 years before Union Army leader Major General Gordon Granger marched into Galveston, Texas, with 2,000 troops to announce that the Civil War had ended and that all former slaves were now free.
Think about what that must have been like for those who either knew or heard it through the grapevine someplace who were still enslaved, or perhaps they didn't know, and it took a major general in the U.S. Army to go into Texas to say, no, what's going on here is going against the president's order and proclamation.
Me being a Bronx native is something I care solely about, and it's good information and good history for everybody to pass on and not forget.
Staff Sergeant Brandon Burke was among those appreciating the history lesson provided by healthcare advocate Jocelyn LeBron and Ron Brown from Project Africa Restoration.
Project African Restoration is an organization that basically helps the community at large.
Reminding those gathered that the day also marked the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre, where more than 300 African Americans were killed in a race riot, was the first African American woman in New York State to serve as district attorney. Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark shared that she stood on the shoulders of the slaves of Texas and those who lived in the town of Tulsa, dubbed the Black Wall Street.
They own their own businesses and schools and churches and everything. And it was all destroyed by racist mobs because they didn't want to see them have what they thought the others should have.
The ceremony included the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation by Education Director for the Office of the Bronx Borough President's Office, Monica Majors. Along with the Bronx, the Harlem State Office building hosted a ceremony along with Brooklyn Borough Hall. So what the organizers want the public to know is that there are 47 states that now observe Juneteenth Day, and that there is a bill right now in the Senate, H.R. 1320, that looks to observe it as a federal holiday. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Mukoko.